Right, you lot, and what an absolutely mental week in the Premier League once again. I mean, I didn't even bother doing a roundup last week because it was so bloody dull. But this week, I mean, we had 5-goal thrillers, 4-goal bashings, complete upsets, and Man City won again.
Wow!
Newcastle 2, Tottenham 1. So for the 4th time this season, Tottenham have gone into a big game against a top 6 hopeful. Been about as exciting as a mouldy egg sandwich. And yes, I'm calling Newcastle top 6 hopeful. I mean, have you seen the form they're on lately? Tottenham have played 4 games so far against top 6 teams. Played Man United, and Arsenal lost comfortably. Played Chelsea, where Chelsea were absolutely robbed, and now they've played Newcastle and lost comfortably again. I mean, the goal at the end literally was just a header from a corner, which was quite lucky to not be offside, if anything. But Newcastle, we've got to talk about them because Eddie Howard's working some sort of miracle. He's got some fairy wand or something. We've got to talk about Miguel almirons because this is a guy that, ever since Jack Grealish came about as useful as a nun in a strip club, he's been on unbelievable form. Every goal he's scored has been a beauty. And I mean, yes, he's a guy who looks like something that should be in a toy shop. But somehow he's turned around form and he's somehow one of the best players on form in the league. I mean, people talk about the likes of Granit Xhaka and Marcus Rashford's return to form, but we've got to talk about Miguel almirons. It's unbelievable. Apart from, of course, Isaac, the big signings that Newcastle brought in, they're not exactly Ballon d'Or candidates, are they? The likes of Nick Pope, Dan Burn, Bruno Guimaraes. I mean, yeah, they're decent teams, decent players that would probably play for any Champions League club, but they're not exactly the pinnacle, aren't they? And I really rate what Newcastle are doing this season. I'm going to root for them, and I think they will make the top 6. That's the little prediction. Leicester 4, Wolves 0. Oh, Wolves. I put Wolves 15th at the start of the season. Most people would have sneered at that and go, oh, they have great defence, they keep lots of clean sheets. Great defence. I mean, if you would have told me going into this season that in the game against Leicester and Wolves who would have kept a clean sheet, I mean, I would have said Danny Ward would be absolutely hopeless. But Leicester, what an unbelievable showing from Leicester. James Maddison once again, and Yuri Tielemans. Oh, I don't understand how the likes of Liverpool, Arsenal or Spurs did not pick this guy up in the summer. He was going for like 18 million, and I know people say, oh, he isn't the right character, but did you see that strike he did? He's unbelievable. And his talent and career is being wasted in this Leicester team that realistically aren't going to make the top 4 again for a long time. I mean, they had their 2 shots and they threw it away. Aston Villa 4, Brentford 0. I read this scoreline and I had to laugh. I mean, even Leon Bailey got onto the scoreline. What a change in passion. It was almost like these guys hated Steven Gerrard the same way that Cinderella hates her wicked stepmother. I mean, it was almost like they literally were pointing to him, the poor guy. And I'll talk at the Gerrard sacking. I mean, obviously it happened. I've been against pretty much every sacking so far this season. I think, well, Scott Parker in hindsight was actually a good idea because they've been good since then. Tuchel should have been given a lot more time. Bruno Lage, it was very harsh in my opinion. But Gerrard, I mean, I can't defend it. He deserved to go. Right, Chelsea won, Man United won. Oh, this wasn't a very exciting match, was it? I mean, Chelsea get a late penalty, and there's no argument for the penalty, by the way. I've seen United fans be annoyed, but Scott McTominay once again proved that that the only place he should be in this Manchester United team is in the cafeteria with the lunch lady, because he's useless. He might be a nice guy, he might do good stuff in training, he might be football's answer to Charlie from Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, but we need to realise on a football pitch he's actually useless, and the sooner Ten Hag realises this, the better. Southampton won, Arsenal won. I mean, the red card was a joke. Once again, every single week I'm talking about a bad refereeing call. I mean, he headbutted him 3 times. You've got to send him off. But apart from that, Arsenal just weren't very clinical. I mean, Granit Xhaka gets another goal, which is good, but really, yeah, Southampton had their moment, but Arsenal were the far superior team and should have walked away with 3 points. It was just... And this is a game that come May, Arsenal are going to look back at and think, what a missed opportunity. I mean, when you're competing against Man City as someone who's done this twice and lost by a point, I know that you only have 5 cards you can play. You only have a few, so many points you can drop if you want to actually beat them. And using one of the cards in Man United at Old Trafford, okay, fair enough, but the Southampton one, that's something in May. And I know the goal isn't the title, obviously, for Arsenal, but they're not going to win the league. But it's top four for them, but they should have beat Southampton today, and they're going to be kicking themselves for this game. Fulham 3 leads 2. What a legendary game! But why did Willian have to score? I mean, when William signed it him, I laughed at that sign. I thought it would be one of the worst deals of the summer. Just this year's answer to Romelu Lukaku.
Why is Willian a Fulham player? I don't get it. He's just a guy who's got the attitude of a wet garbage bin. What's the point of Willian? I don't want to be friends with that guy.
And he just had to score the winning goal. I mean, I feel bad for Leeds because they were very solid as well. And again, Patrick Bamford once again proved that he was in front of net. You could probably replace him with Stephen Hawking and he'd put up the same goal scoring impact because Patrick Bamford is straight up useless. They need a better striker than him. I mean, Rodrigo is superior to him. Patrick Bamford is a one-hit wonder. Just football's answer to the guy that sang the Superman song. Everton 3, Crystal Palace 0. Our Palace, I keep defending this team and talk about how well Pat Vieira is playing, but I tell you, Palace are an inconsistent team. They're like Brentford. One week they're flying high, the next week they're getting battered by Aston Villa. But Everton, I mean, I said these guys would get relegated. They could get into the top half with the way they're playing. I mean, yeah, they've had some terrible draws losses lately, but this win was massive, and Crystal Palace were playing off the park. I mean, and I had Zaha on my fantasy team. But I've got to tell you, the best decision I made in fantasy this week, my two goalkeepers are Guaita from Crystal Palace and Danny Ward from Leicester because he's cheap. I played Ward. That is the best thing I've done all season. Nottingham Forest 1, Liverpool 0. I don't really want to talk about this game. This game doesn't make sense. How come one week you keep a clean sheet against the best attacking team in Europe, next you lose to a team with Jesse Lingard on the wing? There's something about away games at 12:30 this season that Liverpool just don't get up for it. I mean, there was the Fulham outrageous performance at the beginning of the season. Everton, where really we were lucky to not lose, and this was shambolic. I mean, Mo Salah, how many times do I need to tell you? Halloween is on Monday. Next Monday, mate. No, I'm kidding. He's done well lately, but... And I know you could point it down to the injuries we've had, losing 3 of our 5 attacking players, our best midfielder, our second and third best centre-back, and apparently our right-back not being fit to start. Why did Trent not start this game? And I'll tell you, he was one of the best players in the game. When he came on, he didn't put a foot wrong, really. I know, and somehow our best player of the pitch was James Milner. Yeah, the guy that most people think should be retired. He was the best player, apart from, of course, Alisson Becker, who was actually a god. What a guy, Alisson Becker. But it was shambolic. Tyrone Arani, yeah, it was good to get a goal from him. I swear the only goals that guy scores are tap-ins, but you got to respect it. But, Liverpool. This was a big opportunity to climb in with Spurs losing, Chelsea United drooling, Arsenal dropping points, because Man City won, but this could have been a big opportunity for you to claw back some points on Chelsea and United, and you bloody bottled it. I tell you, we never take advantage of other teams dropping points. Remember last season where Man City lost and then Chelsea lost and then we drew to Brentford 3-3. What a mental game that was. I mean, Ivan Toney disallowed goal, 2 goal line clearances. I'll never forget that game. That was unreal. Man City 3, Brighton 1. Why do I ever bother talking about Man City game? I'm not trying to be rude here. I mean this with respect. Man City fans, at the Etihad, when you go to play Brighton, how can you get yourself excited for the game when you know there's no scenario where Brighton can walk away with a point? I swear, unless Man City play Tottenham, Liverpool at Anfield, or the odd game away on Old Trafford, they're going to win every single match. How can you be excited as a Man City fan when you already know the scoreline? It's not about if they win, it's about how many goals they get and if Erling Haaland will get a hat-trick. Of course, he didn't in this one, he got 2 goals. De Bruyne scored again. Yeah, it was overall not a very good night. And I'm recording this before the Bournemouth and West Ham game. I'll put my thoughts in later. Here I am editing. Yeah, the Bournemouth West Ham game. West Ham played alright. The first goal should have never stood. I'm feeling bad for Bournemouth now. Maybe their good form is over. But yeah, Skamaka seems to be doing very well for West Ham, and I guess they're back.
That spot for Europe isn't over yet for West Ham.
My prediction for that is that I think Bournemouth are going to surprise win them 2-1. That's my prediction. Right, now that was the Premier League roundup, and we've only got 3 more game weeks left, I believe, before that dreaded World Cup in Qatar. So for the World Cup, so I am going to be doing my World Cup predictions in a couple of weeks. So I'm going to do World Cup content, don't I? I should really boycott the World Cup, really, because it's Qatar and that, but I can't be asked, really. So yeah, goodbye, you lot.